Hey guys, it is Shell the Spiritual Warrior, and on this series this week we are learning to observe the mind. So the first topic we're going to hit on is obsessive thoughts. Obsessive thoughts is something that still gets me to this day at times. It's something I really have to watch for. Obsessive thoughts, the loop of thought, whether it be, I'm not good enough, the situation isn't going to work out, I can't fix this, anything that really causes anxiety, causes fear, that obsessive thought, or any thought that really causes anxiety or fear, because obsessive thoughts can be a lot of things. I know I'm going to fail this test because I always fail tests. I know I'm going to fail this test. I know I'm going to fail this test. That's an obsessive thought. Thoughts that you just carry with you. Despite what is happening externally, the only thing that you're focused on is this obsessive thought in your head that you're going through over and over and over again. So the reason for obsessive thoughts, you're looking through a lens that is not helpful in your situation. You are thinking it being one way instead of shifting your perception to see it another way. You're looking through the lens of the problem and not looking through a lens of the solution. We talked about that in the last series. And when this continuously happens and you don't challenge the thought in any way or find something else to put your mind on, then the obsessive thoughts just continue. So one thing I use is something that I call mind anchors. And what a mind anchor is a thought that brings you back to a place of peace. It is a replacement belief or a replacement thought instead of just hanging on to the one that you have. And a lot of times you can create these mind anchors or replacement thoughts through reframing or changing the narrative on the thought that you originally had. So, for an example, I'm going to fail this test, I'm going to fail this test, I always fail tests. Instead of hanging on to that thought, you can replace the thought with, I've had difficulties with tests in the past. However, I know that whether I pass or fail this test, it is not a reflection of who I actually am. It's just a test. Who I am is so much bigger than that, right? One test and a drop of I'm going off, this isn't a mind anchor. Mind anchors aren't quite this long, but it's a test and the drop of buckets of tests. Will I even remember this in coming years? It's okay. It's a struggle, but once you get that mind anchor to reframe it, it starts to become more manageable. Obsessive thoughts feel big. They feel really, really big. They feel like they're going to overtake you. They impact your nervous system. Like seriously, your heart speeds up. You get headaches. At least, this is for me. And I feel like it's for other people too. Obsessive thoughts can ruin a day. And why have a day ruined? So you can really, use mind anchors. You got to reframe whatever it is that the thought is. So definitely pay attention to the obsessive thoughts. Notice when a thought is becoming obsessive. Notice when you're having the same thought over and over and over and over again. Notice when this is happening, because it allows you to bring focus to what you're struggling with. It allows you, because believe me, your obsessive thoughts are coming from a belief. It's coming from somewhere. They are not to be ignored. It's not one of those things just like, shake off. No. You really have to pay attention to your obsessive thoughts and what the thought is actually saying, or what you feel the thought means, how the thought makes you feel. Do you have this obsessive thought in your head that's making you feel like shit? Because a lot of times we do. And sometimes we don't even notice. We don't even notice how long this thought has been coming up because we haven't quite separated from our brain. We haven't separated from our thoughts. We're not in a place of observing our thoughts, which is what we're talking about in this series. You're not in the place of observing your thoughts. I wasn't in the place of observing my thoughts. So it's hard to change something that you don't even acknowledge, exists. Actually, it's impossible to change something that you don't acknowledge exists. So if you know that you're having an obsessive thought right now, or all day, or watching this video is the only time you haven't had the obsessive thought, that's not, don't freak out. That's not a major issue. The biggest thing about finding peace or journeying through whatever you want to call it, the biggest thing is just being aware of where you are. Find yourself on the map. I am here. Even being able to say I am here is huge. Do not discredit this. This is progress. This is incredible progress. It's probably, it's one of the largest leaps to really changing anything. Simply saying, I am here on the map. Realizing that there is a map. These are all things that are hugely advantageous to you changing. It is a humongous advantage to know that you need to change. Because how the heck are you supposed to change when you don't even know a change needs to occur? So having an obsessive thought is one of those ways of just you telling yourself, hey, something's up. I really gotta better understand this thought. You don't obsess about the feeling that the thought is giving you. Don't get stuck there. If you know that the feeling is making you feel like shit, okay, acknowledge it. If you know it's bringing up fear, anxiety, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of scarcity, feelings of lack, that's how I describe feeling like shit. Those are the things. Those are some things that, you know, are involved in that feeling. Do not get stuck in the feeling. Allow the feeling and let it pass. But notice what that thought actually is and what that thought is communicating to you. Because it is communicating something. It's communicating a belief. And you have to make a decision. Is that a belief that you find true? Or is that just something that's been caught in your head and you didn't really notice that it was an obsessive thought and you've just been kind of living with it, and you thought, not even so much living, you're definitely living with it, but more than even living with it, you think it's who you are. You think it's that thing. I remember I used to tell my best friend all the time, there's something wrong with me. And she would always say, no, there's not. But because I was having so many obsessive thoughts, and I didn't mean something wrong with me, like, you know, I was on my way to a breakdown. And if you are on your way to, I have had a breakdown. If you're on your way to a breakdown, it's not the worst thing in the world. Actually, when you break down, you can rebuild. And a lot of times we need to rebuild with refusal to break down, and that becomes a very confusing process. So breakdowns are not bad. You just gotta rebuild and get up. Don't stay in a breakdown. But the thought is communicating something. Don't get caught in the fact that the thought makes you feel bad. Just notice what the thought is. Try to figure out the belief of the thought. Where did that thought even come from? And you start doing the work on the thought. You start, because that's where the hurt is. Well, of course your healing is where the hurt is, but healing from the hurt is where your peace is. And you can't heal from the hurt if you don't know where it is, or you haven't identified it. So identify the hurt and use your obsessive thoughts to do it. So like I said, if you're having obsessive thoughts, great, notice them. Notice them, write them down, all those things. Because that will lead you to the next step of what you need to do. And that's the most important thing. You gotta figure that part out. I had to figure that part out. And it was incredibly helpful once it's done. Don't run in the other direction. Do what you gotta do. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys right now. And take care. Shell the Spiritual Warrior. Keep growing. It sucks at times, like seriously, but There's no other way to live. If you're not growing, you're dying. So I love you. Peace.